On a chilly, overcast afternoon, Jake, the leader of the Ghost Trackers team, sat sorting through the team's mail when an envelope, heavier and markedly more aged than the others, caught his attention. It was postmarked from a small coastal town, Eddystone. As he sliced the envelope open, a faint, musty smell reminiscent of old bookshops wafted out. Inside was a handwritten letter on parchment, its ink slightly faded. Jake carefully unfolded it, smoothing it down on the kitchen table where the rest of the team had gathered for their weekly meeting. "Dear Ghost Trackers," Jake began, his voice tinged with intrigue as Lila and Sam leaned in closer. "Your reputation for uncovering the truth behind the paranormal has reached Eddystone. Our community has long been tormented by eerie occurrences on our beach, particularly during foggy nights. We seek your help to investigate these phenomena, as local efforts have been in vain. Enclosed, you will find a token of our history and our troubles." Jake tipped the envelope, and a small, old coin clinked onto the table. It was tarnished but bore the faint outline of a ship and the year 1783. Lila picked up the coin, her curiosity piqued. "This has to be from the time of the shipwreck they mentioned in those online forums," she said, referring to the lost HMS Coventry. Sam, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow. "And you think this is legit? It could be someone pulling our leg, you know. But what if it's not?" Jake countered, his eyes alight with the thrill of a potential discovery. "Every legend has a kernel of truth, Sam. This could be our chance to explore one of the most haunted beaches documented." The room buzzed with excitement as they pondered the possibilities. After a brief discussion, they agreed they would take the trip to Eddystone. A week later, the Ghost Trackers arrived in Eddystone just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows over the beach that stretched wide and desolate before them. The small town was quaint, with rustic charm and a palpable sense of history, but also an undercurrent of something unspoken, a reticence among the townsfolk. They checked into a local inn where the innkeeper, an elderly woman with sharp eyes, handed them the keys to their rooms. "You here for the beach, aren't you?" she asked in a tone that wasn't exactly welcoming. Jake, who always took the lead in such interactions, nodded. "Yes, we're investigating the paranormal activity reported here." The innkeeper sighed, a sound of resigned acceptance. "Well, just be careful. The beach isn't kind to strangers, especially those who poke around after dark." As they settled into their rooms, the sound of the crashing waves in the distance was both calming and ominous. That evening, they set up their base near the old lighthouse, which stood like a silent sentinel at the edge of the shore. Lila set up the video cameras and digital recorders while Sam surveyed the area with an EMF meter, checking for any spikes that could indicate paranormal activity. The cool sea breeze carried whispers that seemed almost human, causing them to glance over their shoulders more than once. "Do you hear that?" Lila asked suddenly, pausing as she adjusted a camera. "It's like someone is whispering." Sam listened, frowning. "It's just the wind. This place is playing tricks on your mind." But Jake wasn't so sure. As the sky darkened and a fog began to roll in from the sea, the whispers grew more distinct. He grabbed his digital recorder and held it out towards the open air, his voice steady but filled with anticipation. "If anyone is there, please speak to us. We are here to listen." For a moment, there was silence. Then, a faint murmur emerged from the white shroud of fog, the words indistinct but undeniably present. The team exchanged a look of mixed fear and excitement. This was what they had come for. But confronting the reality of it was different than discussing theories in the safety of their meeting room. As the night deepened, they prepared themselves for whatever was waiting to be discovered in the haunted whispers of Eddystone Beach. The first night at Eddystone Beach had barely begun, and already the air was thick with the salt of the sea and a palpable sense of anticipation. As the fog thickened, swallowing the edges of the shore in its chilly embrace, the Ghost Trackers' equipment hummed quietly in the background, their screens flickering with occasional spikes that suggested they were not alone. Jake surveyed the setup, his eyes periodically shifting to the digital readouts. "Looks like we're all set. Cameras are rolling, and the EMF readings are fluctuating. This is really happening, folks." Lila, checking the video feed from a camera pointed towards the surf, paused, her voice tense. "Guys, come see this." Her finger pointed at the monitor where, for a split second, a shadow had darted across the screen before melting into the backdrop of undulating waves. Sam joined her side, squinting at the screen. Could this be a trick of the light, or maybe a bird? No, that had a human shape, Jake interjected, his tone serious. Keep recording, and make sure we have backups. Anything we catch needs to be documented meticulously, as darkness sealed off any remnants of daylight. The team donned their headlamps and prepared for a night of patrolling the beach. The whispers seemed to grow in volume as the tide came in, a symphony of soft voices blending with the rhythmic crash of waves. They walked along the shoreline, the beams from their headlamps slicing through the mist. Every so often, they would stop, and Jake would call out, "Is anyone here with us? We mean you no harm. We just want to communicate." The responses, when they came, were chilling, a chorus of whispers, overlapping and eager, each voice desperate to be heard, but none clear enough to distinguish words. "Are you hearing this?" Lila whispered, her voice barely above the sound of the surf. "It's like they're all around us." Sam, recording the audio, nodded, his usual skepticism nowhere in sight. "This is unreal. There's no way this is just wind or interference. We're actually hearing them." As they approached the rocky outcrop near the old lighthouse, Jake motioned for a halt. "This is where most of the sightings have been reported. Let's set up here for a while." The team arranged their equipment on the rocks, creating a makeshift command center. As they settled down, the temperature dropped sharply, and their breath became visible in the air. An EMF detector started to beep erratically, signaling a significant anomaly. "Look at this," Sam said, holding the device out for the others to see. The readings were off the charts, far beyond anything they'd experienced before. Suddenly, the wind picked up, howling around them with renewed ferocity. The whispers crescendoed into a loud, urgent babble. Jake grabbed the spirit box, turning it on to allow for two-way communication. "Who are you? Can you tell us your names?" he asked into the device. The static crackled, and then a clear voice cut through. "Leave. Not safe." "Did it just warn us?" Lila asked, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. "It sounded like a warning," Jake confirmed, his voice steady despite the adrenaline. "We need to stay vigilant." For the next few hours, they continued their investigation, documenting every abnormal reading and unexplainable audio capture. As dawn approached, the intensity of the paranormal activity seemed to wane, and the whispers faded into the background noise of the waking day. Exhausted but exhilarated, they returned to their base to review the evidence they had gathered. The video feeds were full of anomalies, and the audio recordings were layered with voices, each one a piece of the haunting puzzle of Eddystone Beach. Sam, usually the most reserved, couldn't hide his amazement. "This is by far the most concrete evidence we've ever collected. There's no denying something is here." Lila, reviewing the footage, paused on a frame where the shadow appeared. "There's definitely a presence here. We might be the first to actually document this on video." Jake, feeling a mix of accomplishment and unease, summed up the night. "We came looking for ghosts, and it seems they were waiting for us. Let's get some rest and plan our next move after sunrise. We have a lot more to uncover about Eddystone Beach." As they retreated to their makeshift sleeping quarters, the sound of the ocean seemed to carry a new depth, a reminder that they were not alone, and that the night had indeed been a revelation. The next morning, after a brief rest, the Ghost Trackers team decided to delve deeper into the history of Eddystone Beach by speaking with the local community. They hoped that understanding the past would help them make sense of the disturbing occurrences they'd encountered the night before. Their first stop was the Eddystone Historical Society, a small building nestled between the town's diner and its post office. Inside, they were greeted by Mr. Harold Finch, the curator, a man whose life's work had been to preserve the town's history. "Good morning. How can I assist you folks today?" Harold asked, adjusting his glasses as he peered curiously at their equipment. Jake stepped forward, extending a hand. "Hi, I'm Jake, and we're part of a group called the Ghost Trackers. We're investigating the strange occurrences at the beach. We heard you might be able to tell us more about its history Harold's expression shifted to one of concern, but he nodded. Ah, the beach. You're talking about the old Coventry shipwreck, aren't you? Come with me. I have something to show you. He led them to a back room where numerous artifacts were carefully displayed. As they followed Harold through the aisles of historical relics, Lila's attention was caught by an old painting depicting a stormy sea. Is that the Coventry? She asked, pointing to the ship in the turmoil of waves and wind. Yes, indeed, Harold confirmed. The Coventry was a merchant ship that sank off the coast in the late 1700s. All hands were lost, and it was a great tragedy for the town. The ship was carrying a large bounty from the East Indies, and many believe it cursed our beach with its demise. Sam, who was recording everything, asked, "What kind of occurrences have been reported here since the wreck?" Harold sighed, a distant look in his eyes. "Oh, numerous ones. Lights seen in the fog, sounds of anchors and chains at night, even ghostly figures walking the shore. Some say the spirits of the Coventry's crew still haunt the beach, unable to leave." Jake was quick to ask another question. "Has anyone ever tried to document these phenomena before us?" "There have been a few, yes," Harold admitted. "But most folks around here prefer to stay away from the beach after dark. It's considered bad luck to disturb the spirits." Thankful for the insights, the team decided their next stop should be the local diner, where they could hopefully gather more personal accounts from the residents. At the diner, while enjoying cups of strong coffee, they struck up a conversation with the waitress, Annie, who had overheard them discussing their project. "You guys talking about the ghost beach?" she asked, lowering her voice. "My grandpa used to tell me stories about it." Lila encouraged her. "Yes, we are. Do you mind sharing some of his stories with us?" Annie nodded, pulling up a chair. "Well, Grandpa was a fisherman, spent his whole life on the waters around here. He told me once about a night when he was out in his boat alone. Said he heard men shouting over the roar of a storm, but the sky was clear. He swore it was the Coventry's crew, still reliving their last moments." Sam asked, "Did he ever see anything himself?" "Oh, yes," Annie replied, her eyes wide with the vividness of the memory. "One night he saw a figure at the stern of his boat, soaked to the bone and whispering in some strange language. He said he never ran so fast in his life." Their conversation was interrupted by an old man at the next table who had been listening in. He introduced himself as Mr. Clayton, a lifelong resident. "You know," he began in a raspy voice, "the beach wasn't always considered haunted. That only started after someone found an old chest washed up on the shore, right around 1983. People said it was from the Coventry." Intrigued, Jake leaned in. "Do you remember anything about what was in the chest?" Clayton scratched his chin, thinking back. "Bits and bobs, mostly, but there was an old logbook in it. That's when the whispering started. They say it's the captain's curse, trying to tell us where the rest of the treasure is buried." Armed with new stories and a deeper understanding of the town's haunted history, the ghost trackers felt more prepared to face another night at the beach. They thanked their informants and returned to their base, minds buzzing with legends of ghostly sailors and cursed treasures, ready to uncover the truth hidden in the sands and mists of Eddystone Beach. After absorbing the local lore and legends, the Ghost Trackers team felt better equipped to tackle the mysteries of Eddystone Beach. The tales from the townsfolk had fueled their determination to dig deeper, both metaphorically and literally. Lila had found a detailed map in the Historical Society archives showing a less frequented part of the beach near a hidden cove, which was rumored to be a hotspot for unexplained activities. "Guys, check this out," Lila said, spreading the old, fragile map on their makeshift table back at the base. "This cove here," she pointed, "it's not far from where we were last night. It's more secluded and might be where some of the shipwreck debris washed up originally." Jake peered over her shoulder. "Perfect spot for tonight. Let's set up there just before sunset. We might catch something when the tide is low." Sam, who had been reviewing audio files, looked up. "And maybe it's quieter so we can get cleaner audio. Last night was good, but there was a lot of interference from the wind." The team spent the day preparing their equipment, double-checking batteries, and ensuring all recording devices were functional. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, they made their way to the hidden cove, a sense of excitement mixed with the familiar chill of anticipation. Arriving at the cove, The scene was eerily picturesque. The waves gently lapped at the rocks, and the wind carried a salty chill. As darkness enveloped the beach, the team felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere, a heavy, oppressive silence that seemed laden with whispered secrets. "Okay, let's split up and cover more ground," Jake suggested, handing out walkie-talkies. "Lila, you take the northern ridge. Sam, head down to the waterline. I'll explore the central area where the tide pulls back the most." They moved to their respective areas, each member keenly aware of the task at hand. Lila, reaching the ridge, began scanning the area with her night vision camera. Suddenly, she stopped, her breath catching in her throat. There, on the camera's display, was a distinct outline of a chest partially buried under the sand. "Lila to base, you guys need to see this," she radioed, her voice trembling slightly with excitement and nerves. Jake and Sam quickly converged on her location, their lights bobbing in the darkness as they approached. "Look at this," Lila said as they gathered around the chest. "It looks old, really old." Sam, ever cautious, knelt down beside it. "Let's be careful. We don't know what's inside or what condition it's in." Together, they carefully uncovered the chest, revealing its weather-beaten wood and rusted metal bindings. With a collective breath, they opened it, revealing its contents: old maritime artifacts, coins, and a water-damaged book. Jake carefully extracted the book, his hands trembling. "This could be the logbook Mr. Clayton mentioned. Let's take everything back to base and examine it there," Lila suggested. "We need to document everything and see if there's any link to the ship or the hauntings." Back at their command center, the team set about preserving and documenting each artifact. Sam handled the coins, cataloging each one, while Lila took detailed photos. Jake, meanwhile, focused on the logbook, gently leafing through its fragile pages. "Guys, this is incredible," Jake murmured, his voice filled with awe. "These are entries from the Coventry's captain. The last few entries, they talk about encountering a severe storm, the crew feeling uneasy, hearing strange noises below deck." "What kind of noises?" Sam asked, looking up from his work. "It doesn't specify," Jake replied. "Just that it was unlike anything they'd heard before." And then the entries stop abruptly. "That's the night they must have wrecked," Lila concluded, a shiver running down her spine. And maybe what started all this, as they pieced together the clues, the connection between the shipwreck, the artifacts, and the hauntings became clearer. But with each answer, more questions arose. What were the strange noises? Were they related to the hauntings now? Their contemplation was suddenly interrupted by a loud crash outside. Grabbing their equipment, they rushed out to find a new set of footprints in the sand, leading towards the sea. The mystery deepened, pulling them further into the lore of Eddystone Beach. As the moon cast a silvery glow over the beach, they followed the footprints, each step bringing them closer to uncovering the eerie truths hidden by time and tide. The ghost trackers followed the mysterious footprints in the sand, leading them back towards the hidden cove they had explored earlier. The moon was a slender crescent in the sky, barely illuminating the path before them, but their headlamps cut through the darkness, revealing the uneven and hurried nature of the tracks. "Do you think someone else is here?" Lila whispered, scanning the dark outline of the cliffs that framed the beach. Jake adjusted his headlamp and frowned. "It's possible. Or it could be something, or someone less explainable. Keep your cameras ready." As they reached the cove, the footprints disappeared into the water, as if whoever, or whatever, had walked straight into the sea. Sam knelt down, examining the last visible prints. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the edges of the footprint. "These aren't just washed away. It's as if they've been abruptly cut off. No additional drag marks or signs of return." Lila shivered, clutching her camera a bit tighter. "This is getting creepier by the minute. Do you think we're dealing with a ghost? Like a real one?" "Let's not jump to conclusions," Jake replied, though his voice betrayed his concern. "Let's set up here for a while. We might catch some EVPs or thermal readings." The team set up their equipment on the stony beach of the cove. Sam placed EMF meters along the water's edge, while Lila set up her camera to record the surrounding area. Jake held the spirit box, turning it on and adjusting the frequency. If there's anyone here with us, Jake began, his voice steady despite the eerie setting, please communicate with us. We saw your tracks. We know you're here. The static from the spirit box crackled and hissed as they waited in silence. Then, a faint, garbled voice emerged from the device. Cold, so cold. Lila gasped, gripping her camera. Did you hear that? Sam, who had been watching the EMF meter, nodded. It spiked right as the voice came through. This is real-time interaction. Try asking something else, Jake. Jake cleared his throat. Who are you? Were you on the Coventry? The static paused, and then a clearer voice cut through. Captain, I am the Captain Lost. The revelation sent a chill down their spines. Jake continued. What happened to your ship, Captain? Storm, betrayed by the sea. All lost. The voice faded into a sad whisper. Sam turned to the others, his expression serious. This is unprecedented. We're actually communicating with the captain of a shipwreck from over 2 centuries ago. Lila, while filming, added, we need to document everything. This could be a major discovery in paranormal research. They continued asking questions, piecing together the tragic story of the Coventry as the captain's voice grew weaker. Treasure. Didn't save us? As the voice faded away, a sudden cold wave swept over the beach, and the equipment flickered wildly. Lila's camera captured a faint glow emanating from a spot near the rocks. There, she shouted, pointing. The team rushed to the spot, finding an old, rusted key partially buried in the sand. It was ornately designed, clearly from the same era as the other artifacts they had found. This could be the key to a chest, maybe the one containing the rest of the treasure, Jake speculated, his mind racing with possibilities. The rest of the night was spent near the glowing spot, but no further voices were heard, and the glow eventually dissipated as dawn approached. Exhausted but exhilarated, the ghost trackers returned to their base with the key and a new set of recordings to analyze. They had tangible evidence of paranormal activity and a new lead on the Coventry's mystery. The key might unlock not only a physical chest, but also the secrets of the haunted beach and the spirits that lingered there. As the sun rose over Eddystone Beach, the team sat together, reviewing their findings. They knew the next night at the Cove could reveal even more, perhaps even the final resting place of the Coventry's lost treasure, and hopefully, a way to bring peace to the restless spirits of the ship's long-lost crew. As dawn painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, the ghost trackers gathered around the rustic wooden table at their base, the ornate key from the previous night's discovery lying prominently before them. They had spent the early morning hours reviewing audio recordings and footage, confirming the veracity of their interactions with what they believed to be the spirit of the Coventry's captain. This key, Jake began, his eyes never leaving the intricately designed artifact, could be the last piece we need to uncover not just the physical treasure, but also to possibly release these spirits. According to the captain, they're bound here, to the treasure they were tasked to protect. Lila nodded, her mind racing with the implications. We need to find the chest this key belongs to. It's probably underwater, near where the shipwreck is supposed to be. Sam, reviewing the EMF readings again, added, the activity spiked around that cove. I think we should dive there. If we're lucky, the tide and currents would have preserved the chest in a reachable depth. The plan for the night was set. They would venture back to the cove with diving gear, which they had rented from a local shop earlier that day. As the sun set, they felt a mix of anticipation and dread, knowing that this night could be the culmination of their investigation. Equipped with waterproof torches and diving equipment, they reached the cove. The sea was unusually calm, as if inviting them to uncover its secrets. Jake was the first to gear up, followed closely by Sam and Lila. Remember, stick together down there, Jake reminded them, his voice muffled by his diving mask. We don't know what we're dealing with. The cold water enveloped them as they descended into the murky depths, their torch lights piercing the darkness. The ocean floor was uneven, covered with rocks and seaweed. And as they moved further, remnants of the shipwreck began to emerge from the gloom. There, Lila pointed towards a partially buried wooden structure that could only be part of the Coventry. Nearby, a large, iron-bound chest loomed in the shadows, its presence almost eerie. Approaching the chest, Jake tried the key. It fit perfectly, turning with a heavy, satisfying click. As he lifted the lid, a swirl of bubbles obscured their view momentarily. Inside, they found not only gold and jewels but also personal items, lockets, rings, and trinkets that must have been dear to the crew. Sam captured everything on his waterproof camera, the significance of their find not lost on him. This is more than treasure. It's a time capsule. These were people with lives and stories. As they surfaced with some of the artifacts, the air felt different, lighter somehow. They laid the items on the beach, arranging them with care. "Now what?" Lila asked, her voice low. "How do we release them?" Jake, looking back at the sea, said, "We give back what was theirs. We let go of the physical attachments, and maybe, just maybe, they can move on." Under the moonlight, they held a small ceremony, placing the personal items in a boat they had borrowed. With solemn respect, they pushed the boat out to sea, watching as it floated away, carried by the gentle waves. As the boat disappeared from view, a soft, warm wind picked up, rustling the leaves and whispering through the grass. The oppressive feeling that had cloaked the beach was lifting, evaporating into the night air. The EMF meter, quiet until now, gave a final flicker and went silent. The cameras, still rolling, captured the tranquility of the scene, a stark contrast to the eerie footage from the nights before. "Did we do it?" Sam asked, almost afraid to believe. "I think we did," Jake replied, a smile breaking through his exhaustion. "We did something good here." The team packed up their equipment, their steps lighter as they walked back to their base. The night sky seemed brighter, the stars sharper, and the air fresher. In the days that followed, the ghost trackers prepared their documentary, piecing together the footage and their findings. The story of the Coventry, its lost crew, and the treasure became a poignant tale of history, mystery, and release. When the documentary aired, it was met with fascination and acclaim, catapulting the ghost trackers to new heights in paranormal investigation. But for Jake, Lila, and Sam, the true reward was the peaceful silence that now enveloped Eddystone Beach, a testament to their respect for the past and their role in laying restless spirits to rest. As they left Eddystone, each cast one last glance back at the quiet beach. No whispers carried on the wind, no shadows danced at the water's edge. Just the sea, the sand, and the memory of a mystery solved, spirits freed, and history respectfully remembered. As the sun rose over Eddystone Beach, casting a pale light that seemed to cleanse the air of the night's eerie events, the Ghost Trackers team gathered at their base, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. They had spent the night following the whispers of the past, engaging with the unseen, and possibly freeing the souls of the Coventry's lost crew. But the adventure didn't end with the dawn. Jake sat with his laptop open, reviewing the footage from the underwater camera and the spirit box recordings. The images of the ghostly captain and his crew, once bound to the cursed treasure, now felt like distant memories captured in their digital archives. "Listen to this," Jake said, hitting play on a particularly clear EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, they captured right after the ceremony. The voice of the captain, grateful and free, echoed through the speakers. "Peace, finally." Lila, looking over Jake's shoulder, felt a chill despite the morning warmth. "It's amazing, isn't it? We actually did it. We helped them." Sam, packing away some of their less sensitive equipment, nodded in agreement. "And we have everything documented. This could change the way people view paranormal research. We're not just chasing shadows. We're solving mysteries that have been waiting centuries for a resolution." As they talked, a plan began to form for their departure from Eddystone. They decided to leave later in the day, giving themselves a few hours to visit the town one last time, share their findings with the locals, and say their goodbyes. The townspeople, initially skeptical and distant, welcomed them with newfound respect and curiosity. At the local diner, where they had first heard the whispered legends of the beach, they were met with questions and awe. "You really did it, huh?" Annie, the waitress, asked as she served them coffee. "You found the treasure and the ghosts?" "We did," Lila replied, sharing some of the less terrifying images on her camera. And we made sure to respect the history and the spirits involved. We believe they've found peace now. Mr. Clayton, who had told them about the logbook and the captain's curse, shook his head in wonder. Never thought I'd see the day. This beach has been a part of our lore for so long. Maybe now it'll just be a beach again. With their departure looming, the ghost trackers made one last trip to the beach. The place that had been the source of so much mystery and fear now seemed just a part of the rugged coastline, beautiful and serene. The oppressive weight that had hung in the air was gone, replaced by a gentle breeze. As they stood there, Jake set up his camera for one last shot of the beach. No ghosts, no whispers, just the natural beauty of Eddystone's shore. "We got to come back here someday," Sam said, "when it's just about the vacation and not the ghosts." Lila laughed. "I agree, but I'll never be able to look at this place the same way again. It's part of our story now." With that, the ghost trackers packed up their van and drove away from Eddystone Beach. They left behind the mysteries they had solved and took with them the stories and evidence that would soon captivate their audience worldwide. Back at their studio, the work began to piece together their documentary. Every clip and EVP was scrutinized. Every piece of historical evidence matched with their findings. The story they had to tell was not just one of ghosts and curses, but of history, mystery, and the quest for peace. When their documentary finally aired, it was more than just a hit. It was a phenomenon. Viewers were captivated by the combination of historical pirate lore, the tangible evidence of the paranormal, and the respectful resolution of a centuries-old mystery. The ghost trackers had not only uncovered the secrets of Eddystone Beach, but had also redefined what it meant to be paranormal investigators. They had shown that these investigations could be about understanding, respect, and closure, not just the thrill of the chase. And as for Eddystone Beach, it remained a popular spot, no longer just for those seeking ghosts, but for those who knew the story of the ghost trackers and the spirits they set free. The beach was at peace, and so, in their own way, were the ghost trackers, ready for their next adventure.